fáilte arás chuig agran nua de Aistriú ag Tá dúra seach an saothraíthar amháin. So today we're focusing in solely on the saothraíthar, otherwise known as the passive. I'm not going to give you a big explanation of the passive because there's quite a bit in it. I've done that in a feature-length video before over on YouTube. It's probably a bit outdated now, not in terms of the information in it, but in terms of the editing, because it's one of the first videos I did, but it does have all the information in there. That's available below. If you click on the Learn Irish Online link for it and sign up there for free, you get the accompanying PDF with it also. Okay, so I go through all the explanations and all the things you need to know to get these right, essentially, over in that video. So feel free to head over to that if you need to even brush up or completely learn the saothraíthar, whatever it might be. And when you're ready, these are the sentences today. So híd na habertí inniu. It is seen as a good place. They are spoken about all the time. A few of them were not sold. Will they be given back? Do you know if it will be bought soon? Little tip for you here. Do not use a direct translation of if, so don't use ma or da. Just imagine it as a question inside a question, okay? Do you know if or whether it will be bought soon? And last one, number 6, the crowd was seen an hour beforehand. Okay, so we've got the verb see in there twice, but very different translations for each one of them. And let's get on to number 1, Ibrahim. It is seen as a good place. Fechter mar áit wa I. Fechter mar áit wa I. A lot of people might have made mistakes here surrounding the gender and have said áit ma or áit wa é or áit ma é, whatever it might be. Not the biggest deal in the world. We'll get on to that and why it is áit wa I. The main thing here we're looking at is the saothraí, so don't worry too much if you got other parts messed up, especially small stuff like that with the genders, but we will go through it in a second. But firstly, the saothraíthar, what we are all here for. What verb are we dealing with? Well, it is the verb to see, so we're going to use fecht, and it is present tense, so it's fechter. Okay, now here's the thing. In this case, it's one of the irregulars where it doesn't really matter the present tense of see, but with others it would. If you think of what makes a verb regular or irregular, what makes a verb regular is the fact we have the same tense throughout. Let's take the verb run, for example, rih me, rihin me, rihi me in the main 3 tenses. It's very clear what the root is there, it's rih. Same for all the other regular verbs. Irregular is a bit different. If we think of the verb to go, for example, hui me, nyaki me also in the past, sayin me, rocky me. So what in the world, even though I might know che is the original root, what root do I use for things like this? Now, go, you'd never really use in the saothraíthar here. He was gone. Doesn't really make sense in terms of someone doing the action. But there are other ones. We're going to see one actually in number 4. We're going to see this come up, so we'll cover it more then. But the idea of what root do we use, we just mirror it off the original tenses. So if I'm in future passive, I mirror it off what the future form of the verb would be. Okay, here I'm in present passive, so I think, well, what's present in terms of the verb see? I'd say fechen me, so I use the fech. That's the root anyway in that one. That happens to line up because the verb see isn't that irregular compared to some of the others. Okay, so it's not a big deal here, but we will need to know that for later on, and with the irregulars we'll get back to it. So fechter, because it's present tense, fekfer if it was the future, honicus, which kind of shows you what I'm on about for the past. We will also get back to honicus later and why it has a hus ending. But here it's going to be fechter. Mar is going to be there for as. And then I'm not going to put the E in straight away, so I don't say fechter E, which a lot of people might have said. Again, very small mistake. It's just more fluent to do it this way, putting the object pronoun towards the end. Always think of the example. I will see you soon. It's not fechime hu galua, fechime galua hu. Okay? And that's especially important in the saothraíthar here because you're going to be using the object pronouns a, e, ed, and so on all the time. So it is seen as a good place. Fechter mar áit wa I. Okay? Áit wa I. So áit is feminine. How can I figure out it's feminine? One of the good ways is thinking of one of your other rules and then using it to prove it here. So, for example, I know masculine ones beginning with vowels, like this one does, will always take a T after the definite article. An talt for the article. So, an táit, does that make sense? Have I heard that before? No, I haven't. So it doesn't take the T. I say an áit, therefore it must be feminine. Therefore, any adjective that is on top of it will take a H if possible. Áit wa, and equally we change it to E at the end instead of A. So feictar mar áit wa í. Okay, but the main thing there is to get the Siri here right. Ever though, they are spoken about all the time. La riatzar fuhu an tam fad. They are spoken about all the time. La riatzar fuhu an tam fad. And again, let's focus in on the Siri here. What's the verb? It's the verb to speak. And this is another one, even though it's not an irregular, because it's a long verb, this can throw people off. And some people might have said larcher. I think at least a handful of people might have said larcher, because I hear it quite often. Remember, there is a difference between the short verbs and the long verbs, and we always need to keep that in mind in terms of our endings. So I think the easiest way to do it, guys, is again, imagine the verb, let's say in normal present here, because they are spoken, so it's present passive because of the are. So I just go to normal present. How would I say I speak? I would say Lorraine may. So that gives me the kind of structure on it. Now I can get rid of my NN at the end, because let's be honest, that's just for, let's be honest, we don't need to be honest, it's just a fact. That is the present tense, normal present. Here we're in passive present, so we don't need any double N. Okay? So what am I left with then? I went from Lorraine may to Larry. So that kind of gives me the shape and structure on it, and then I just put on my ending, Lariature. Okay, so I'm just putting on the same ending, the short ending, but I've done it in a way where it kind of already has the shape on it, which is going to give it the long ending. You can do it that way, or you can think for short verbs, it's ter or chur. For long verbs, it's eachur. It's going to be eachur for both of them. Okay, it's going to be pronounced the same. So you can do it both ways, but I think getting what the verb is in the original tense makes it a bit easier. If you think of this in the future, so future passive will be spoken about. Again, I go la roi me for I will speak. So therefore it gives me the kind of shape on it. The o fada, I get rid of the e sound because that's always for future tense, normal future. So therefore la ro for whatever, la ro for fui, he will be spoken about. So let's get back to it. They are spoken about. So the reiter fuhu. That's quite tough because you've got the they on one side, the about on the other. But I think it's one of those, when I bring it up, people are going to understand why it's like that. La reiter fuhu. We can't just say la reiter id because it's about them. They are spoken about, la reiter fuhu, all the time on tam fad. And again, time is masculine, it begins with a vowel. So therefore, when we have the definite article before it, it's going to be on tam. The time on tam fad, all of the time. Ever three, a few of them were not sold. A few of them were not sold. Near zilu kuplikiaun aku. Near zilu kuplikiaun aku. Okay, so again, let's sort out the theory here first. What's the verb? The verb is gil. If it's in the past, I'm going to add my u. It's not a long verb. I don't need to worry about putting a h in. I just take the root and add an adh at the end. Some people might have said yilu, but those really don't come in unless we have something beforehand forcing it on it, okay? In terms of h's and errors, okay? Which we'll see later on. Again, I'm in the past, so I'm going to use the near instead of the niece. That also copies over, so a lot of stuff copy over here. You know, near yield may, I didn't sell. Near gilu was not sold. Okay, you just need to remember not to have the h in the serial. Near gilu, what wasn't sold? A few of them. This can be tricky, so a few ones at them basically. Kuplikian aku. If you think of, there were 6 of us, vis Cheshire agwin. So I'm using the egg form to do the kind of us. Normally I don't use the je form. You know, ironically, even though of is used so often in English, and we do have a word, and in fact a full kind of preposition list in terms of me, of you, for je, it's not used that often because normally it's either in this form or it's in the Tishil Ginnajuk. You know, the centre of the city, I use the genitive form lor n'chahrak, so we don't use the je that often. Okay? Nujidu kuplikian aku, so the kuplitanagin on shin, a few of us were there. So here it's of them, aku and kuplikian, because it's things, a few of them weren't sold. If it was talking about people, then it would be kupla dinner. Iver a kahar and shin, will they be given back? Will they be given back on Dorfer Arash Eid? On Dorfer Arash Eid. So what is going on here? Same again. I get the verb. It is the verb to give. This is irregular. So I need to look at the original tenses. I can't take tug or tower just as the root by itself. So past tense, hug me. So I'd use the tug. It would be tugu. If it was present tense, it would be tuggin me. So I'd use the tug again, tugter. And if it was future tense, let's say tarhi me, I use the tower. Okay, so this is a good example of one. The irregulars where you have to look at the different tenses and look at which one you're copying over. So we're future passive here, so we look at future normal, future simple, whatever you want to call it. Okay, so tor for A would be it will be given. But here, what are we looking at? Will they? Will they be given? So we're going to put the id at the end. We can do that later. So it's torfer, but then the on before forces the on it, on dorfer or on dorher. You can also pronounce it without the F sound and kind of a H sound on the F. Like we'd have a normal future tense, fek he instead of fek vi, for example, you can do that also. So on dorfer, we need to put id at the end again, not on dorfer id rash. More fluent, but a right at the end on dorfer a rash id. Okay, so the importance there of the irregular ones and the irregular ones. I know there's only 11, but they're some of the verbs that we use most often. Okay, do you know if it will be bought soon? Possibly the trickiest one here. Do you know if it will be bought soon? With these ones, guys, in English, you could say, do you know whether it will be bought soon? Do you know that it will be bought soon? We always just phrase it. There's loads of ways in English. In Irish, we always just phrase it like a second question inside, okay? We don't change that much about it. So here, do you know if it will be bought soon? An willa is agat an gianofer galua a. An gianofer galua a. So we phrase it like a question inside the question. Firstly, do you know an willa sagat? Always just think, I know, ta sagam. When it's not, I know this, or I know that, or I know the person. When we're talking about different things, it could be a role list, it could be atna. We've spoken about that on other videos. But for just I know, you know, I don't know, whatever it might be, ta sagam here in question form, and will sagat and will sad, as it might often be pronounced, dropping the G on the agat. And then we just again phrase the second bit like a question anytime we've if or whether in these type of questions, okay? Do you know if you will be here? On will sagat on my shell on so. Okay? Do you know if you will be here? Basically just phrase it like another question. So that's what we do. For how would I say will it be bought soon? I would say on gianofer galua a. Why? Because again, let's say kianoi in the future, it's on will be bought. So it has to be the future version of the passive. Again, I look at the future of the simple verb. It would be kianoi me. So I use the kianofer, it becomes. I put the a at the end. When I have the on before, because it's a question again, like we said, it's going to be on gianofer. On gianofer galua a, galua for early or soon. On Willis Hoggett on Gianofer Galua A. As always, guys, questions on any of these, just leave it down below. I'll be more than happy to get back to you as soon as possible, giving you more of an explanation. Or I don't feel like there's too many alternatives for these, but if you have got an alternative and you feel like it was correct, just leave it down below and I'll get back to you. Most of the time, most of the comments with alternatives, they end up being correct as well. Irishay, guys, on Cian Ternach on show. The crowd was seen an hour beforehand. Honachas on Slua. Or Erchlig Riv Ray. Here there's a few, you could say or a one Erchlig, just or Riv Ray. But to make it clear, it's hours and not time, I would say or Erchlig. Okay, or a one Erchlig, that would be fine. So, firstly, the crowd was seen. So as always, we need to put that verb in first. There are a few of the irregulars that don't take the u in the past passive, okay? They take a hus. There's three main ones you need to remember. If you go online, you might find other ones like was been or was came, but like in English, it's pretty much impossible, to say was been or was came. It doesn't really make sense. So viahus and honigus won't really come up. You're going to have to remember three main ones that take the hus in the past tense instead of the u. That is hulhus, forhus, so hulhus is for was heard, forhus for was gotten, tends to be used more so with a mock for found out, forhus mock, it was found out, and also often in legal judgments. For his kyuntuke, he was found guilty. And the one we're dealing with here was seen for Honachas. So that's what we're looking at. And the crowd was seen, Honachas on Slua. Then what do we have after that? By the way, there's a few different words for crowd, but Slua the best one really for a general crowd. If you're talking about a crowd that might be going to a football match, you could say unlooked la nuna, could say unlooked even by itself. But again, there can be confusion because looked also can mean blame and charge, an electronic charge. So I would just use slua for this one where it's general crowd. An hour beforehand, so or, and again using the click to show that it's talking about hours instead of just 6 times, 5 times, the last time or anything like that. Makes it a bit clearer. And when we're saying beforehand or in advance, riv ray is a term that may be new for you guys. But again, feel free to look all these ones up on fuckler.ie at the start of Aistriú and try and get them correct. And try and get used to using them in these sentences, okay? So, Honachas on Slua or clig riv ray. The crowd was seen an hour beforehand. That is it, guys, for the 6 sentences. Go through them one more time. Fector mar áit wa for it is seen as a good place. La réitir fuhu and Tamar fod, they are spoken about all the time. Near Zilu kuplikian aku, for a few of them were not sold. And door for Rashid, will they be given back? Number 5, do you know if it will be bought soon? Was an will sad on Gianolfer Galua A. Agus ever sé Honnicus and Slua or clig Rivray. The crowd was seen an hour beforehand. Tassulagam will key leshin. I hope that makes sense. But as always, any questions, just leave them down below. Gurmina mil magi mar iskanach, guys, as a veg vacants on Malier Dumlan on show to be watching the full membership here. Agus as a veg vacants episode nua de egg Aistriú. Lura mi live, gahan luar fad slán agus banacht.